Hello, everybody. My presentation, Reservations and Incarceration, is aimed at finding the correlation between Native Americans and their high levels of incarceration rates in America. In the novel There, by Cheyenne and Arapaho author Tommy Orange, 6 out of the 12 characters have ties to violence through drug trade, robberies, or they have been incarcerated. In a book review of Orange's novel, Native American writer Alicia Elliott states her concern for non-Native readers. I found myself wondering how non-Indigenous people would read this book and whether they would interpret to reinforce their stereotypes of Indigenous people. So what sparked my interest in this topic? Orange's theme of violence in his novel triggers other natives to worry about how they are viewed by non-Indigenous people. My interest in the criminal justice field influenced me to investigate if there was any truth behind this violent Indian stereotype. Character connection to real-world natives. The first quote is from a chapter which preludes a robbery that takes place at a powwow in the book There. Native character Blue sees some thuggish-looking men pacing near the safe which holds the prize money. She hates that she stereotypes these other native men as violent, but she can't ignore her gut feeling. The second quote is about another Indian character in the book, Bill Davis, who has done a stint in prison himself after a bar fight gone wrong. People saw him as a Vietnam veteran that went violent and crazy after he returned home. The indigenous savage origin. The stereotype that Native Americans are savages has been around since the arrival of Europeans to North America. They created boarding schools to deculturize and assimilate indigenous children to strip their barbaric way of living. Native lifestyles reminded Europeans of humanity in its infancy. This stereotype has evolved since then, and in the present day, the most common stereotype for Native Americans is that they are seen as belligerent alcoholics. Modern-day incarceration of natives. It is true that Native American men are incarcerated at a rate 4 times higher than white men. The U.S. Sentencing Commission review found that over the last 5 years, the Indian population in federal prisons has risen by 27%. In South Dakota, natives compose nearly 60% of the federal caseload, yet they only make up 8.5% of the state's population. On the left, you can see a diagram which shows the Pennington County native population, which is only 10%, yet their native inmate population is 51%. Tribal trends. These disproportionate numbers are not confined within the borders of South Dakota. Many other Midwestern states that have high levels of Native American populations face the same issue. Native Americans compose 33% of the federal caseloads in Montana, 25% of the federal caseloads in North Dakota, 14% of the federal caseloads in Minnesota, and 13% of the federal caseloads in Oklahoma. Native Americans are put behind bars at a rate 38% higher than the national average. Native youth have a 30% greater chance to be referred to a juvenile court rather than to have their charges dropped compared to white kids. Indians are at the highest risk of being killed by police than any other race. Indigenous women are arrested at a rate 6 times higher than white women. These disparities in the overrepresentation of Indigenous people in prisons can be traced back to reservation land. Crimes committed on reservations are prosecuted federally. Outside of reservation land, these same crimes committed are typically prosecuted within state, which offers less harsh punishments and sentences. Loopholes in jurisdiction cause tribal police to not have the power to prosecute non-natives that commit crimes on reservation land.